Okay, I'm recording this, so I'll post it on Blackboard when we're done as well. Um, Hope everything's going well for everybody. I know some of you are having issue getting computer access. Uh, I've opened up the due dates. I went back, I believe, into week 8, and I brought some of those due dates and extended them to give people more time to complete the work. Um, Obviously, I think most of us have more time on our hands than we thought we might. I'm seriously sitting in front of this computer probably 10 to 12 hours a day answering emails and creating videos and back and forth with my 6 classes. So I'm spending a lot more time working than I thought I would be on the online setting, but hey, everything's good here. Good news is I heard from SolidWorks, they've changed the wait period to 14 days. We had so far 8 people have passed the CSWA on their first attempt. And there were, I think, 3 or 4 others who had passed one of the 2 tests going into it as well. So we're pretty close. So we will take our final exam. That's going to be next month. So what I'm asking is for you to try and get those tests taken. If you haven't taken them already, that's fine. But I would like you to have the first test 1 and 2, take that first round and have those done by the 5th of April. That gives us about a 2 or 3 day window from the time that you take it, if you were to do it on the 5th, to when we would start for the final exam, to allow you to get that time to get those tests taken. For those people who have passed the CSWA, you don't take the final exam, you're done. I did explain in this week, week 10, I call it the CSW practice test, and I'm looking at my other monitor over here. I did put an explanation of how this test is going to work. So with the CSWA, it takes 80 points to pass the test. So if you get 80 points, then that's 100% on that test. So if you were to get 70 out of 80, and you didn't pass the CSWA, you still got 70 out of 80 points for the final exam. So the final exam is only worth 160, 80 and 80, not the full 160, or I'm sorry, not the full whatever, 132 or whatever it is on the final exam. So we're just saying passing the CSWA is 100%. So you can still do well in the class and not get your CSWA and just take the CSWA at another time. But we seem to be on a pretty good start here getting people through. So we're going to continue with practice segments for the CSWA test. Even those people who have passed often get us the questions like, I passed, do I need to do any more? Well, now if you've already passed the exam, that's great, but now you're working towards content for the rest of the class. So this week we have the jig, and I'm going to share my screen with you. Oops, wrong screen. Well, maybe not. Can you guys see the jig, or do you see my browser? Anyone? I believe you're seeing the jig. I'm going to stop and check one more time just to make sure I got it right here. Yep, I know. So this is the jig. It is in metric. Okay. Now, just for the sake of this test, you want to try and do this test in about 45 minutes. So there is no time on this test, but it is another example of using multiple angles. And when you start the test, try to do as much of the work as you can in one sketch. And that might sound a little bit different from what we've said in the past. But what I mean by that is try to get as much of that layout. So I would draw on that side view and project that all the way back so that I have the most amount of material in the least amount of time, and then start blowing away material, as opposed to trying to build a section, add a section, build a section. You know, get the big pieces done first. That's going to help us to go a little bit faster. Then I have, it's called brackets and rods. And with the brackets and rods, I have these assemblies. This is very similar to some of the assemblies that we're going to see on the CSWA where we're going to have to dictate our distances. So this B distance here, it's actually referring to this inside face here, to the outside face of the other base. So you've just got to match those dimensions for the first one and then find out what your center of gravity is. And then we'll make the changes. So you'll see in the second one, we change A, B, C, and D. We change the dimensions, and then you'll give me the second one. Again, I have a video for this that kind of shows you how to go through it. Speaking of that, I know that I think Nate told me he had a problem getting some files out of the CSWA when you downloaded them because it was a zip file. The easiest way to do that is to go into that zip file, click on all the files you need, right-click, copy them, and then paste them like onto your desktop so that they're not in that zip file anymore. That makes our life a little bit easier. So once you have the brackets, again, there's two. So in the brackets, you don't need to submit any PDFs. You can just go into the submission. So if I were to go into the submission here, you can do a written submission and just tell me what your X, Y, and Z are, because I don't need to see the objects because I gave you the objects. So just so I know what your center of mass for the X, Y, and Z for problem 1 and problem 2 are. Moving down, then we have our parts for the Elmer's engine that's going to continue. So we have the piston. Oh, you hear some clicking, so I don't know what that means. The piston, the rod, and the fork. So I'm going to go back out of here. So that's all I have to show you on my desktop there. Okay, I'm just like, I finally got back to my chat session so I could see where there was some questions. Anybody have any questions with that so far? No questions? Okay, so I did go back, like I said, and opened up week 8. At this point, based on the fact that some of you are short on computers and accessibility, I'm not worried about late and not late and that sort of thing. I just need to get the work in. I'll get it graded, but we just got to do as best we can to get our work in. And some of you are still struggling to get access to computers. Don't give up on that. Hopefully we can still get through this. I know at one point the college had laptops. I know that they had run out. I don't know if people have turned any back in, but I would continue to check that. I would plan, based on what I'm hearing at the college, that we probably will not come back for the spring term. Everybody around us, Ferris, Central, Michigan, Michigan State, Western. The only 2 colleges I know that have not so far is GRCC and Muskegon Community College that have not officially said we're not coming back for the spring. But moving forward, we should plan that's just what's going to happen. But with that being said, don't forget to register for classes. So for the fall, there are early and late summer classes that are being scheduled. And at this point, I believe they're all planning on going online, at least for the first early summer. I don't know about the late summer sessions, so you might want to take a look at those as well. And then if you guys have any questions or anything, please just email me. One of the cool things with Zoom, if you're not familiar with Zoom, is that you can share your screen with me. It's just like you could see my desktop. I can give you access, and then you can open up yours, and I can take a look at your machine, and then we can still communicate back and forth. And if you have questions that may be helpful, I think that we can get through this. I know that a lot of people are working hard, so just keep up the good work. I'm just reading here. Nate said the government just issued a stay-at-home order for 3 weeks as of 15 minutes ago. Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. Well, April 3rd, there's a spring break in there too. That's what I think the governor is looking at. It's the high school spring break. So there's this week, next week, which would be the high school spring break. And after that, they would maybe let them come back. but for us, that would just be 1 week in spring, and then exams. So
No, it's until the 13th.
right. That's what I'm saying. That 13th is about the end of the high school midwinter or spring break, roughly, because theirs is the first full week of April. So there's this week, next week, and then that following week would be spring break. That's the 3 weeks. That's kind of what we thought was going to happen anyway, but what can we do? We can just keep on keeping on. Hope everybody was doing well. Everybody's healthy. And again, I'm here for questions. If you have them, just please let me know, and I'll do what I can do to help. Okay, I'm a little bit faster on responding because I've got nowhere to go, and my computer's always on. All right, so if you have no other questions for me, I do have week 10 open with all the assignments. Everything's due on Sunday at 10 p.m. Sunday at midnight, and then it's open for another week. This week should be a fairly easy week for you guys to get through. And everything pretty much from this point on is all just preparing us for the CSWA. All right. So those test codes are still available. Again, I can see some of you haven't taken the test yet, but as you don't have to send me anything either. So when you take the test, the code that I gave you guys automatically populates another screen that I get that tells me your score, and I can see where your issues were. But I would like to plan a meeting every Monday during this time so we can have questions and get everybody out up and running on what's going on for the week. I can do 10 a.m., but I just thought most people are probably sleeping more now, so I'll let you guys decide whether you want to do a 10 or 11 for a meeting for next Monday. You tell me. So if you could just give me a comment what you prefer, 10 or 11, and we'll make a decision here right now. Okay, so it sounds like your general consensus is 11. That works for me too, because then I do one at 11 and 1 at 12 for my next class. So that's all I have for you guys today. Just keep working, do what we can do, and let's try to keep communicating. All right. If you guys have no other questions, another question came up. So Kong's asking me, do I have any more examples of the XYZ and center of mass assembly? You're still confused on it. Well, Abu, you have to set up your, I'll go back to it here. Share my screen with you. So if we're looking at this coordinate example here, it's telling us that the X, Y, and Z has to be at that corner of that block. So once we get that block set, and then we get everything set where it's at, then we're going to go up into evaluate, and we'll ask for the center of mass, and it'll tell us what the X, Y, and Z is. The other thing that you can do is I have this video right here that's on that same thing, and you can watch that video through, and I do the whole thing with you so you can see what those coordinates are. So I would suggest that you try this before you watch the video, and then take the video before you submit your answers and see what you get. All right, that makes sense? Okay, if that's it, that's all we have. I've got this meeting recorded. I'll post it on online for anybody else that missed it. Hey, keep safe. We'll see you guys again on Monday.